Hello, and welcome to today's presentation of the International and Foreign Language Education Programs at the U.S. Department of Education. My name is Carolyn Collins, and I'm a Program Officer with the International and Foreign Language Education, or IFLE, office at the Department of Education. Today's webinar will be a basic overview of our 11 different programs, and at the end of the session, we'll have a moment to go over which kinds of programs are right for which kinds of institutions and individuals. Today's presentation is being broadcast on YouTube Premiere, so if you're joining us live, please don't hesitate to use the chat box to interact with us and ask any questions you might have. If you're not watching today's presentation live, then we encourage you to reach out to us by email anytime you have a question, and the email address where you can do so is appearing on screen now. It's ifle@ed.gov. That's IFLE at ed.gov. A couple of other good ways to learn more about our programs and to interact with us are first by subscribing to our newsletter. You'll find a tiny URL there with a link to subscribe to add yourself to our mailing list. And then we also encourage you to check out our Google map of IFLE grantees. It's a great interactive way to explore our programs and learn about individual grantees and the projects that they are currently being funded to conduct. So without further ado, let's jump in. The Office of International and Foreign Language Education at the Department of Education administers Title VI and Fulbright-Hays programs. These programs provide grant opportunities that support the internationalization of U.S. institutions of higher education. Our Fulbright-Hays and Title VI programs prepare teachers, students, and citizens with the global and cultural competencies and experiences that they need to be successful in 21st century careers, and also to fully engage with an interconnected world of diverse cultures, religions, world perspectives, and languages. As you'll see on this slide, we administer 11 different programs. The programs can be organized into two buckets. One is our Title VI programs, which act more on the domestic side of things, and these include the National Resource Centers, Foreign Language and Area Studies Fellowships, Centers for International Business Education, Business and International Education, International Research and Studies, Language Resource Centers, American Overseas Research Centers, and Undergraduate International Studies and Foreign Language program. Our overseas programs, or Fulbright-Hays programs, include the Doctoral Dissertation Research Abroad Fellowships program, the Group Projects Abroad program, and finally, the Seminars Abroad program. We'll go more into depth on each of these programs during today's presentation, but today's presentation is really just meant to be an overview. So if you'd like to learn more, we encourage you to go to our website to dive into the details of each program, and also to stay tuned to our updates via our newsletter, our Twitter address, which you'll see at the bottom left of the screen, which is @GoGlobalEd, and also, other things like these webinar presentations to learn more about each specific program. Okay, we're going to start with an overview of our domestic programs. These are programs that are authorized under Title VI of the Higher Education Act. These programs strengthen U.S. home-based resources in area studies, international business, and language teaching and learning. The first program, and really the reason it's first is it's sort of the flagship Title VI program, is the National Resource Centers, or NRC program. This program provides grants to institutions of higher education to establish, strengthen, and operate centers of excellence. Those centers of excellence do a wide variety of things, including but not limited to teaching less commonly taught languages, or LCTLs. Those are any language other than Spanish, French, and German. They also provide instruction in fields needed to provide full understanding of areas, regions, or countries where those less commonly taught languages are used. National Resource Centers do research and they provide programs of study focused on issues of global importance. And finally, last but not least, they do teacher training activities and professional development opportunities related to center's world languages, area studies, or international studies. On this next slide, you'll see a map that shows where our current grantees for our National Resource Centers program are located. As you'll see, we have 100 NRCs currently that span a range all across the country and represent 10 different world areas. Also not shown on this particular map is Hawaii, but we do have a few National Resource Centers in Hawaii. The National Resource Centers program represents funding of approximately $23.7 million for fiscal year 2021. And as I said, we have 100 centers that can be understood in 10 different world areas, including Africa, Canada, East Asia, Latin America, international, Middle East, South Asia, Southeast Asia, Western Europe, Russia and East Europe, and really covering the entire globe. A few examples of our currently funded National Resource Centers are listed here so that you can get an understanding of where you might find a National Resource Center and what the center might focus on. So for example, we have a Latin American and Caribbean Center that is located at Florida International University. We have the Center for African Studies at Howard University, the Atlanta Global Studies Center at Georgia Tech, the East Asian Studies Center at Ohio State, and finally, the Center for East European and Russian or Eurasian Studies at University of Chicago. Eligible applicants to the NRC program are institutions of higher education or a consortium of institutions of higher education. That means that sometimes two institutions will join forces and leverage their combined resources to form one center. For example, we have a National Resource Center that is a consortium between Duke University and the University of North Carolina that focuses on Latin American studies. The length of a National Resource Centers grant is for 48 months. Funds are awarded annually, and those continuation funds are contingent upon the appropriation from Congress and grantee performance. But the length is good to note because this program does not hold a competition every single year for new grantees. Rather, we hold a competition for new grantees once every 4 years. So the current grant cycle goes from 2018 through the end of fiscal year 2021. We will be holding a competition for the next grant cycle, which is 2022 through 2025 fiscal year, this fall and winter. So if your institution or a consortium of institutions is interested in exploring applying for a National Resource Centers grant, you'll want to check out the website listed on this slide to find out more information about what an application looks like, to keep apprised of the application dates, and of course to access the application when it is finally posted. Okay, the next program that we're going to discuss is the Foreign Language and Area Studies Fellowships Program. We also call these FLAS fellowships. FLAS fellowships are grants that go to institutions of higher education to provide academic year and summer fellowships for students who are studying foreign language and area studies. FLAS fellowships support advanced language and area studies training for undergraduate and graduate students, and a large majority of fellowships support the study of less commonly taught languages. The FLAS program, a good way to understand it is that it's kind of a sister program to the NRC program. It's a separate grant program with a separate application. However, many institutions who receive an NRC grant also receive FLAS fellowships, or vice versa. Many, but not all. The programs do not necessarily have to go together, but frequently they do. For fiscal year 2021, we have 106 institutions that have received allocations of fellowships for 10 different world areas. The FLAS program represents $31.2 million of funding for fiscal year 2021. And as you'll see listed, we have a few examples to give you a better understanding of what institutions and centers have applied for and received allocations of these awards. We have the Center for Near Eastern Studies at New York University that has received an allocation of FLAS fellowships for Middle East. We have the Center for Southeast Asian Studies at Northern Illinois University, the South Asia Center at Syracuse University, the Center for European Studies at University of Florida, and the Canadian Studies Center at University of Washington and Western Washington University. They're a partner on that consortium grant, which has received an allocation of fellowships for the languages of Canada. So that would include French, but also Inuktitut and other First Nations languages. Eligible applicants for a FLAS grant. An important understanding for this particular program is that it's the institution that applies to receive an allocation of awards. So individual students do not apply to the IFLE office directly. Rather, it's the institution of higher education or consortium that applies to IFLE to receive an allocation of awards. Institutions then conduct their own competitions on campus to select fellows who will then receive the awards. Then the fellowships themselves are administered directly by the institution rather than being administered by our office at the U.S. Department of Education. The length of the FLAS fellowship grant, like NRC, is 48 months, so 4 years, but those funds are awarded annually, contingent upon appropriation from Congress and grantee performance. The fellowships themselves, again, the fellowships that are awarded and administered directly by the institution with the allocation, those fellowships last for 1 academic year or for 1 summer. The current grant cycle is going on until the end of fiscal year 2021. The next grant cycle will be for fiscal year 2022 through 2025, and that competition will be taking place this fall and winter. So again, if your institution is interested in applying for an allocation of FLAS awards, which you could then give to your students, we encourage you to go to the website listed to learn more about what the application looks like, and to start preparing your applications, since we will be announcing the competition this fall or winter. Okay, the next program that we'll go over is our Centers for International Business Education. This is a really unique program that provides grants to increase and promote the nation's capacity for international understanding and competitiveness. Centers for International Business Education, or CIBEs, as we like to call them, link the business community with university expertise. Much like the National Resource Centers, the Centers for International Business Education do a wide variety of things, including but not limited to internationalizing business curriculum on campus, offering development programming for business faculty, developing business language courses, organizing intensive language training for business persons, supporting small and medium-sized businesses seeking to develop overseas markets, and funding research projects and publications. CIBE grants usually go to business schools, which are located in institutions of higher education. That provides them the expertise about international business and the business community, and also allows them to connect better with local businesses who are looking to expand into international markets and may need some help with consulting or understanding the markets that they want to reach. CIBEs also advise on supply chain management and other issues of great importance to international business. The map you see here shows where our current community of CIBE grantees are located. Again, you'll see that they're really located across the country. We have 15 CIBEs at the current time that receive funding of 4.5 or closer to $4.6 million for fiscal year 2021. CIBEs, again, usually go to institutions of higher education that have business schools. Right now, a few examples of the CIBEs are Loyola Marymount University, San Diego State University, Texas A&M, University of Colorado at Denver, and University of Maryland College Park. If you were to just search any of those institutions with the term Centers for International Business Education, you would be able to find the CIBEs. You can also go to the Google map with that tiny URL that you see, tinyurl.com/2020 IFLE grantees. And you can click around and explore the CIBEs. Each of their websites is linked there, and that's a great way to go directly to their websites to learn more about their work in their communities and across the nation. Much like the National Resource Centers program, the CIBE grants go to institutions of higher ed or a consortium of institutions of higher ed. The length of the grant is 48 months again. So this program only competes for new grants once every 4 years. Luckily for any institutions who are interested out there, the next competition will be taking place this fall and winter. So that's fall 2021, winter 2022. So please go to the website listed if you're interested to learn more, and stay posted on our Twitter feed or through our newsletter for announcements of when the competition will be opening. Okay, the next program that we'll talk about is our Business and International Education, or BIE program. This one we're presenting right after the CIBE program because it does something similar in terms of trying to target the issue of international business, but this program does it in a little bit of a different way. The BIE program provides grants to institutions of higher education that enter into an agreement with a trade association. The goal of the BIE program is to improve the academic teaching of the business curriculum and to conduct outreach activities that will assist the local business community to compete in the global arena. This program actually hasn't competed in terms of having a competition for new grants in a number of years, but we're excited to offer to have it back on our roster. And we are currently conducting a competition to select the new grantees for fiscal year 2021. We project to make about 20 new awards, and those awards will make up about $1.6 or $1.7 million of funding. Past BIE grants have gone to Hampton University for their International Business Initiative in Virginia. Another example is Ohlone Community College, which proposed a project to support their Greater Silicon Valley Service Export Initiative in California. Another past grant went to Portland Community College to support their International Business Education Initiative in Oregon. So as you'll see from this list in comparison to the CIBE grantee list, these colleges, include, or I guess the BIE program list of grantees tends to include some smaller institutions or some community colleges who are proposing targeted initiatives. The Centers for International Business Education program, it's a larger, more resource center program that is intended to serve the entire nation in terms of capacity and expertise. The BIE program is really for targeted initiatives in local communities for institutions who are working with specific trade associations. So here are the grant details for the BIE program. The BIE grants can go to institutions of higher education that enter into an agreement with a trade association. The goal of that agreement needs to be to improve the academic teaching of business curriculum and to conduct outreach activities to assist local businesses as they try to compete in the global arena. Another difference that you'll notice between the BIE program and the CIBE program is that the BIE grants can last up to 24 months. The CIBE grants are 48 months, so 4 years. BIE grants are for 2 years. Again, the funds are awarded annually, contingent upon the congressional appropriation given for the Title VI programs, and also contingent upon grantee performance. The current grant cycle for BIE well, the competition is taking place now, and so those grants that are awarded will be made for fiscal year 2021 through 2022. We don't know yet when the next time the BIE program will have a competition, but again, we really encourage you to subscribe to our newsletter. That's tinyurl.com/IFLE newsletter. And that way you can get updates on this and other programs. The competition for this time around, it closed very recently on August 13th, and so we are currently conducting that review. The awards will be announced in the coming months, and we are excited to welcome our group of new grantees for the BIE program. Okay, our next program is the Language Resource Centers, or LRC program. This program is also authorized under Title VI of the Higher Education Act, and it provides grants to improve the nation's capacity to teach and learn foreign languages effectively through research, teaching materials, digital tools and resources, assessments, professional development, and less commonly taught language initiatives. Also K through 12 initiatives, and outreach and dissemination. The LRCs are a very vibrant group of resource centers that provide expertise to language teachers and students throughout the country, and they have their own website. So please go to nflrc.org, where you'll find a lot of those links to a lot of those resources, upcoming events, information about their summer institutes, and more. So I really encourage you to check that out if you are a language teacher or someone who works with language teachers and would like to learn more about the work of the LRCs. Like our other grants, the LRCs are located all across the country. For fiscal year 2021, we have 16 language resource centers that received $2.7 million of funding for the fiscal year. Some examples include the National Resource Center for Asian Languages at California State Fullerton, the Center for Urban Language Teaching and Research at Georgia State, the National African Language Resource Center at Indiana University, the Center for Educational Resources in Culture, Language, and Literacy at University of Arizona, and the Center for Open Educational Resources and Language Learning at University of Texas at Austin. As you'll see from this list, the centers have different themes. Some of them have very broad themes, so they're broadly addressing language learning in terms of, as you'll see with the University of Arizona, culture, language, and literacy. Or they're focusing on assessments with language learning. Other centers have a regional focus. For example, you'll see the California State University focuses on Asian languages in particular. So they develop materials for instructors and teachers who are focused on Vietnamese or Lao. Some centers really focus on regions like African languages, Central Asian languages, etc. Finally, some have a thematic focus that's very subject specific. So you'll see the University of Texas at Austin. Their bread and butter is open educational resources. So if you're a language teacher and you want free open educational resources, please check their work out because they're doing some great innovative work in that space. So the grant details for the LRC program are that eligible applicants are institutions of higher education or a consortium, like the NRCs and CIBEs. The LRCs operate on a 4-year grant cycle, so funds are awarded for 48 months contingent upon the appropriation and grantee performance. Again, this grant cycle matches the NRC and CIBE cycle. So we're just finishing up our FY 2018 through 2021 grant cycle, and the next cycle will begin in fiscal year 2022. That competition will be held this fall and winter. So please go to the website listed for that information, and to get updates and to see the application package when it is posted. Okay, moving on with our Title VI programs, we have our International Research and Studies, or IRS grant. These are grants that support research on the needs, methods, and strategies for teaching foreign language, area, and international studies. The IRS program has basically 2 types of award. One is focused on projects that do research, studies, and surveys. The other one funds projects for the development of instructional materials. We have 18 current IRS projects for fiscal year 2021 that represent $603,846 in funding. IRS grants, as we mentioned on the last page, can either focus on research, studies and surveys, or instructional materials. So here's a list of some of the current projects that are being funded. The Center for Applied Linguistics received a grant to do a project called Oral Proficiency Assessment Training for pre-K through 8 language educators. An organization called Language Mentors International received a grant to study the characteristics of language immersion in high-performing StarTalk student programs. Stony Brook University has an IRS grant to look at the impact of intercultural engagement on Asian language learning outcomes. And the final example here is the University of Minnesota, which received a grant to look at social justice in language education, strengthening career competencies, intercultural understanding, and language proficiency through specialized materials. And again, we encourage you to go to the Google map, tinyurl.com/2020 IFLE grantees, where you can click each of these icons and dive more into the details of the projects that are currently being conducted. So the IRS program grant details are a little different than the ones that we've seen so far. Eligible applicants actually can be individuals in this program. They can also be institutions of higher ed, local educational agencies, nonprofit organizations, other organizations and/or agencies, and state education agencies. The length of an IRS grant can vary from 12 months on the short end to 36 months on the long end. And that timeline is really determined by the grantee proposal. What are you asking for in your application? And then after the applications are reviewed, if your project is selected for funding, the program officer for the IRS program will work with you to determine the right time frame, what makes sense for the study and funding. The IRS program competes annually, and the next grant competition will take place in for fiscal year 2023. So if you're any of these eligible applicants and you are interested in applying, please go to the URL listed where you can learn more about what an IRS application consists of, and where you can keep posted on new updates for the next competition. Our next program is the American Overseas Research Centers, or AORC program. which is a really unique grant program that provides grants to consortia of U.S. institutions of higher education that establish permanent facilities in host countries or regions to provide scholarly and logistical assistance to American postgraduate researchers and faculty. Our network of American Overseas Research Centers help U.S. scholars navigate the local environment, secure research permits, facilitate access to scholarly resources and individuals, and arrange lectures and public events. Centers also host scholarly conferences in the U.S. that focus on topics related to their world region of focus. The picture you see here is actually from one of our current AORCs. This is a group of U.S. scholars who are participating in some programming offered by the AORC that we have currently located in Indonesia. So as I mentioned, we currently have an AORC in Indonesia, but we also have AORCs all around the world. And some examples include a center located in Mongolia, a center located in Senegal. We have the American Institute of Indian Studies, the American Research Institute of the South Caucasus, and the Center for Khmer Studies. So we have currently 15 AORCs that are funded at a level of about $1 million per year. And our current group is from the fiscal year 2020 competition. The next grant cycle will take place in fiscal year 2024 or for fiscal year 2024. And the AORCs operate on a 4-year grant cycle. So the grant cycle with the AORCs is similar to the grant cycle with the National Resource Centers, the Centers for International Business Education, and the Language Resource Centers program. Eligible applicants to receive an AORC grant are consortia of institutions of higher education. This grant is unique because in order to be eligible, an institution has to be a consortium. It has to be a consortium between a U.S. institution of higher education and a center that is based abroad. So the consortium must receive more than 50% of their funding from public or private U.S. sources. They must have a permanent presence in the country in which the center is located. And finally, they must be a tax-exempt nonprofit organization as defined in Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. So if you have more questions about the AORC program, please go to the URL listed where you can dive more into the eligibility requirements and learn more about the current network of AORCs that are funded. Okay, our final Title VI program that we'll go over is our Undergraduate International Studies and Foreign Language, or UISFL program. We love that acronym because the Undergraduate International Studies and Foreign Language program is incredibly useful for the institutions that receive these awards. UISFL grants are aimed at strengthening undergraduate instruction in international studies and world languages. They focus on developing and implementing curricula, providing faculty training, and providing seed monies for new language programs or study abroad programs. So the picture you see here is actually from one of our UISFL grantees, Joliet Junior College, who received a UISFL grant several years ago to help build out a study abroad program to Japan. And so you see here a group of their students having a great time in Japan. So we currently have 32 UISFL grantees located all across the country. For fiscal year 2021, the UISFL program represents $2.9 million of funding. And a few examples of UISFL projects include Agnes Scott College, which received a grant for a project entitled Enhancing Global Mindedness Through Middle Eastern Studies. Coastal Carolina University received a UISFL grant to help build collaborative area studies through interdisciplinary language resource centers. And finally, at least in the examples here, we have Montana State University at Billings, that is a consortium with Northwest College on a project titled Global Skills Certificate Program, an International Studies minor focused on East Asian Studies. So this is another program where clicking around that Google map is a really good way to learn about the program because you'll see the variety of types of projects that are funded. Useful grants can help fund building new study abroad programs, but they can also, help fund building out new area studies programs on campus, or adding an international component to existing programs. For instance, adding an international study abroad program or a short study abroad program at a nursing school, or something similar to that. So the map is a really great way to learn about that, and you can go there through this tiny URL listed on the slide. Okay, eligible applicants for the useful grant are institutions of higher ed or nonprofit organizations. The length of the useful grant is 24 months through 36 months. Again, that time frame is really determined by what the institution asks for in its project proposal, in its application, and what the reviewers, the peer reviewers, note during the review, and the program officer, how the program officer, comes to a determination in collaboration with the grantee on the appropriate length of time for the award. Funds are awarded annually, again, contingent upon the congressional appropriation for the program and grantee performance. The current grantee cycle for the useful program is from 2020 through 2023 fiscal years. The next grant cycle will actually compete for fiscal year 2022. So the next competition will most likely take place this coming February. That's February 2022. So again, if you are an institution that's looking to build out your international programming, add some new study abroad offerings, internationalize some components of your current offerings, if you have a targeted program proposal, this is a really fantastic program. And so we encourage you to go to the website to learn more, to think about how you might start writing your useful grant application, and also, of course, to stay posted on the application, the competition announcement through our newsletter. I misspoke earlier. The URL for the newsletter is actually tinyurl.com/IFLE news. That's IFLE news. Or you can go to our website, where you can find the subscription link, or go to our Twitter at GoGlobalEd, and that way you can get updates on when our programs are announced so that you don't miss the application window. Now that we've finished talking about our Title VI programs, we're excited to jump into our Fulbright-Hays programs. We have 3 programs that are authorized under the Fulbright-Hays Act, and these programs, we like to think of them as our overseas component to the programs administered by our office. The Fulbright-Hays programs strengthen the overseas capacity for cultural understanding between U.S. researchers and project participants, and the people of other countries by means of educational and cultural exchange. The first program that we'll go over is the Doctoral Dissertation Research Abroad, or DDRA, Fellowships Program. You'll see here in the photos a few of our DDRA fellows actually abroad conducting their research, on site doing the work. So DDRA fellowships are grants that go to institutions of higher education to fund fellowships for doctoral students to conduct research overseas in modern foreign languages and area studies for periods of 6 to 12 months. DDRA fellows are doing their research abroad all over the world. This map you'll see, it's covered with dots. The big dots with the airplane icon represent the actual fellows who are abroad doing research. And the smaller dots that you see more in the United States, those are the home institutions. For fiscal year 2020, we have 112 DDRA fellowships. So that's 112 students who are actually being funded to do research overseas. The average individual DDRA fellowship is approximately $38,111. These three examples are really just three of 112. So again, the Google Map is a great way to learn more about the actual projects that are being funded and for you to see the wide diversity of fellows and diversity of projects that are supported. City University of New York has a student that is currently researching the Tibetan exile community in India. And that student is using the Tibetan language to actually do their research. Princeton University has a student who's researching business innovation, intellectual property, and social enterprise in Nigeria, and that student is using the Yoruba language for their studies. And the University of Wisconsin has a student researching how Indigenous women make decisions about education and migration in Guatemala. And that student is relying on their Quiche Maya skills to do that research. So if you're interested in potentially applying for a DDRA fellowship or having your students apply for them, here are the grant details. The eligible applicants are actually the institutions themselves, but the fellowships go to individuals. So US citizens, nationals, or permanent residents who are enrolled in doctoral programs in the fields of modern foreign language and area studies are eligible to apply through their institution for a DDRA fellowship. So this is a program where both the students and the institutions submit applications through our online G5 application portal, but the students actually have to go through their institution of higher education from day one at the application process level to apply, and then the institution submits the package, the group of applications to our office, which then review the applications. When the fellowships are made, then the grants actually go to the institutions themselves, which then give the fellowships to the students. Fellowships may last up to 12 months for a DDRA award, and the next call for applications will be for fiscal year 2022. So that competition will most likely take place in February. So again, now is the perfect time to start thinking about this and planning if you are a student or if you are an institution of higher education administrator, a fellowships advisor who wants to let your students know about this opportunity. Now is a great time to start preparing. So please go to that URL listed to find out more about the DDRA program in particular. And if you have questions, we have a DDRA dedicated email address where you can send in your questions if you want to learn more or can't find the answers on the materials listed on the website. I will note there's a very thorough frequently asked questions part of the DDRA website. And so I encourage you to check that out before you email, since your questions might be answered there already. But the email for the DDRA program specifically is ddra@ed.gov. So very easy, ddra@ed.gov. Or of course, you can always email IFLE@ed.gov and your email will be directed to the appropriate person. Okay, our Group Projects Abroad program is the next one we'll go over. We call this the GPA program for short. These are grants that go to institutions of higher education or other organizations to organize programs for K through 12 teachers, college students, and faculty. to engage in short or long-term overseas projects focused on training, research, and curriculum development in modern foreign languages and area studies. So GPA awards go to institutions or organizations who put together a project that has a common research theme or goal, and then the institutions select the participants to actually do the program. The picture you see here is actually from our 2019 GPA program, where one institution proposed a program for in-service and pre-service teachers to visit classrooms in Tanzania. And during that trip, they were able to learn about educational systems by actually going into classrooms, speaking with teachers and students, visiting other, a wide variety of other organizations and cultural sites. And then they, of course, were able to use that experience and knowledge to integrate a more international component back into their curriculum in the United States. So current grantees of our GPA program, again, can be found all across the country. Our grants go to institutions, as I said, which then select participants who will make up the actual group that does the project abroad. So for fiscal year 2020, we have 25 GPA grants. 19 are considered short-term projects, and 6 are considered long-term projects. So the funding for the overall GPA program in 2020 was $3.1 million. A few examples of GPA awards are the ones listed here. The first two are short-term projects, and the last one is a long-term project example to give you a sense of the difference. Metropolitan State University of Denver received a short-term award for their project entitled Women, Art, and Development in Contemporary Morocco. The New England Educational Leadership Institute received a short-term grant for their project called Mandarin Instructional Leadership Training Program, Summer Institute for Teachers of Chinese. And then the University of Arizona received a long-term GPA award to support the CASA Advanced Arabic Language and Culture Training at the Qasid Institute in Jordan. So the short-term GPA projects really are for maybe 4 weeks where a group goes abroad, a group of teachers, students, faculty members engaged in a common endeavor. They have a theme, they study a particular subject while they're abroad, and then they come back home. The long-term projects are something like this one at University of Arizona, where they're actually funding the possibility for students and others to do Arabic language and culture training for a longer amount of time overseas. So that it's really the time frame that differs, and then also sort of the structure of the proposal. So in terms of proposals, here are the grant details. Eligible applicants include institutions of higher education, nonprofit organizations, and state educational agencies. Short-term projects, the actual duration of the grant can be up to 18 months long. That said, the actual travel time of the group is usually much shorter than that for a GPA project. Usually, and the grant recipient will have up to 18 months to put together and conduct their actual project, but the travel time when the group is abroad might be 4 weeks. The long-term projects can last up to 24 months. And again, those can be structured a little bit differently. So if it's awards to support students as they do intensive Arabic training in Jordan, maybe the awards might support a student studying there for 6 months. So again, it's just the time frame and of the actual time abroad for the participant that differs, but also the time, the length of the actual project period is a little bit longer with the long-term projects. The next call for applications will be for fiscal year 2022, and that competition will most likely open in January of 2022. So again, if you're an institution interested in the GPA program, please check out the website. Now is the perfect time to get going on brainstorming ideas and coming up with a draft sort of application proposal. And that way you can hit the ground running when the competition itself is announced, hopefully this coming January. So please go to the URL listed for more information. The GPA program also has a dedicated email address. If you want to get in touch with their program officer, that email address is gpa@ed.gov. So pretty simple. Again, gpa@ed.gov. The final program that we'll review is the Seminars Abroad program, or SA for short. This is a Fulbright-Hays program that provides 4-week short-term seminars, or it's 4 to 6 weeks actually, short-term seminars abroad for U.S. educators to develop a curriculum project while overseas. The curriculum project that is developed should incorporate international content into K through 12 and post-secondary curriculum in U.S. classrooms. The picture you see is actually from one of our seminars that took place this summer. It was a seminar for K through 8 educators to Iceland. So those happy faces you see are some U.S. educators who were able to get abroad to Iceland this summer, learn about Iceland in all of its various facets, and write new curricula for their schools back home. As I mentioned, we had a program to Iceland this summer with 16 participants each. The photo at the top that you see is a great photo of some of those participants at one of the waterfalls in Iceland. That seminar was focused on exploring the concept of a small state in the high north. So these small country, in the northern hemisphere, and how K through 8 educators could incorporate some of that knowledge and cross-cultural content back into their curricula for their schools, but also their school districts and communities back home. We also had a seminar that just finished in Mexico for post-secondary educators. That seminar was the theme of that was the third route, exploring African heritage in Mexico. And the picture at the bottom that you see is a photo of some of those participants participating in some dancing that was programmed as part of their cultural learning while they were in Mexico this summer. So those educators, again, worked during their time in Mexico to write new curricula, to incorporate cross-cultural content into their existing curricula. And at the end of the seminar, basically the final product will be curricula that they can now incorporate back into their classrooms, but that they will also share with their institutions, with their school districts, with their communities, and share online so that other educators who have not had the opportunity to go abroad to these places or to have the kinds of experiences that the Seminars Abroad participants do, so that those educators can also benefit from the experience and get more of some global content into their teachings. The Seminars Abroad program is a good one because elementary school teachers, middle or high school teachers, administrators, curriculum specialists, librarians, museum educators, media resource specialists, and faculty who have responsibility for curricula in the fields of social sciences or the humanities are all eligible to apply. Potential applicants for this program actually apply directly to our office. Unlike some of the other programs we have with individuals where individuals apply through the institution, this is one where the individuals actually apply to us directly. and are selected directly through IFLE and our peer review process. So, so if you're a teacher or an educator or administrator that falls into one of these categories, we absolutely encourage you to apply to the Seminars Abroad program. The seminars last for 4 to 6 weeks and are held in the summer, so so they won't conflict with your regular school year. And the next applications will be submitted soon, actually. The competition will be opening hopefully in October. So, so applicants will be able to apply this October, this fall, to take part in seminars that will occur next summer. So the summer of 2022 seminars, if you want to compete or if you want to participate in a seminar next summer, you need to apply this coming October 21, for a spot. To learn more, please go to the URL listed. Again, the website has a lot of great information, including frequently asked questions, a lot of information about eligibility, and and any preference points that you might get if you teach at a Title I or Title III school. So please go to that website for more information. The specific seminars that will happen next summer will also be announced on the website soon. So we don't know yet, or we don't have it confirmed just yet exactly where next summer's seminars will be taking place, but those details will be shared soon. And there is usually a seminar at each educational level. So there's usually one seminar at the K through 12 level, or excuse me, the K through 8 level, one seminar at the secondary level, so middle and high school or high school students, and one seminar at the post-secondary level. Those details will be announced shortly, and please go to the website for more information. Okay, now that we've learned a little bit about our 11 different programs, the next few slides are intended to help you figure out what's the right program for you. If you're an institution or an individual coming to this presentation and you're just not sure which one, makes sense for your institution to apply for, hopefully these next few slides will help kind of match you to an appropriate program. So the first group of programs are what we consider to be our targeted capacity building programs. These include the Title VI Business and International Education program, the Title VI Undergraduate International Studies and Foreign Language program, and the Fulbright-Hays Group Projects Abroad program. So these three programs are similar in the way that they support targeted initiatives, experiential activities, and creative projects customized for diverse participants. These programs are not meant as broad national sort of, everything under the kitchen sink programs. These are meant as targeted programs to support specific initiatives. They're designed for institutions to strengthen the competitive edge of small or underrepresented institutions by enhancing area studies or language training programs. So if you're a smaller institution, if you're an underrepresented institution, if you're an institution that just doesn't do a lot of international stuff yet, but you want to, these three programs are a really good place to start. These three programs also really work to expand, to create in the first place, or to expand your international programming. So grantees that we see under these programs, they can be larger institutions or sometimes state flagship institutions, but often we see smaller institutions receive these grants. We see community colleges receive these grants. We see minority serving institutions, apply for and successfully implement these grants. So, so if you are any one of those, I think check out the BIE program, the UISFL program, and or the GPA program. The next batch of programs can be really thought of as our center programs. These are kind of our centers of excellence. These are the Title VI National Resource Centers, the Centers for International Business Education, the Language Resource Centers, and the American Overseas Research Centers. So these are all programs that support broad expertise on world regions, world affairs, or thematic topics. All of the centers that participate in these programs really serve as resources to the whole nation, and they also help U.S. scholars who are abroad. They provide substantial resources, and they have substantial offerings in area studies, international studies, and modern foreign language training across multiple disciplines and departments. Institutions who receive these grants usually already have a big capacity to leverage existing linkages abroad and also establish new ones. And finally, these types of institutions usually are already doing or want to have the capacity to do robust regional and national outreach on their various areas of expertise. So the NRCs, the CIBEs, the LRCs, and the AORCs, they're really national resource centers. They're understood to be the experts on whatever they're doing. So the National Resource Centers are the experts on their particular world regions or topics of focus. You know, let's say Latin America or Russia and Eastern Europe. You know, those NRCs are really go-to places for the nation. Whenever the public needs more information about a particular topic or needs to find experts who speak a particular less commonly taught language, the NRCs are a resource for that. The Centers for International Business, you know, they're resources for the business community across the nation, not just in local markets. They're providing, you know, they're developing new curricula for teaching international business. They really have a broad expertise. Same goes for the language resource centers. You know, they're the preeminent experts on language learning and teaching. They're doing research. They're creating materials. They're working on creating new assessments for languages across the board, especially less commonly taught languages. So they're really serving our community of language teachers and language learners, so that we can be competitive in learning and successful in learning these languages, you know, to help fulfill the national need. And finally, the American Overseas Research Centers, again, they are the experts on helping U.S. scholars in their countries or regions where they're located. So if you're a U.S. scholar and you're going to Indonesia, you know, you don't know where to start in terms of finding host institutions or getting permits to do research, you can go to that AORC, and they really know their stuff. So these 4 programs really act as national resources, and generally tend to go to larger institutions or institutions that have you know, a robust capacity already to do these activities, or that have enough capacity where they're ready to start doing these activities. So you don't necessarily have to already have an NRC in order to apply for an NRC or a CIBE or an LRC or AORC, but you need to be in a position where you can hit the ground running, you have the resources, you have the institutional commitment and capacity, where you can build that and really be working on that high level to provide that expertise. Okay, this slide is really just focused on the International Research and Studies program because that program is really very unique. It focuses on specialized research, assessments, surveys, and instructional materials related to international and foreign language education. It's for creating and contributing new knowledge to the field. IRS programs, or projects, I should say, they work on a custom timeline. They're very custom projects, and the program officers really work with grantees to develop a timeline and a project that will develop the results to create that new knowledge and contribute to the field. IRS projects in particular have the potential for long-term impact via publication and dissemination of project results and materials. So the studies and research that are funded under the IRS program really contribute to helping everybody in the U.S., especially in the international education field, understand better certain issues, certain topics, the impact of certain programs. So this program kind of stands on its own. It's also unique in that the grants go to individuals, but also institutions and organizations. So it's basically anybody that is ready to do a specialized research project on a topic related to international and foreign language education. This goes over the programs for which individuals can apply. I mentioned the IRS program. Individuals can apply to that, but that's really an individual that wants to do a specific research project. The programs listed here are for individuals who are studying or who are traveling abroad to gain knowledge, for curricula back home. These include the Foreign Language and Area Studies Fellowships Program, that's the Title VI FLAS program, and the Fulbright-Hays Group Projects Abroad, or GPA program. Those two programs are ones where individuals apply through an institution. So individuals never apply to the IFLE office for those. It's actually the institution that applies to us at IFLE for the grant. We then review the application, and our grant award goes to the institution. The institution then runs its own competition, its own selection process to choose who will become a FLAS fellow or who will participate in the particular group project abroad. The one program where individuals do apply directly to IFLE is the Fulbright-Hays Seminars Abroad program. And then the other program that can be considered in this group is the Doctoral Dissertation Research Abroad, or DDRA Fellowships program. That program is a little bit unique in that individuals and the institution apply through our online G5 platform, but individuals have to go through their institution. They have to go through their institution's fellowship advisor or organizing office, and the institution submits the group of applications together. So individuals apply by submitting an application to IFLE through their home institution. But in any case, all four of these programs work to assist individuals as they strengthen their knowledge of modern foreign languages and area studies. They all support research, study, and/or curriculum development, and they may support study and research travel abroad. So the FLAS Fellowships program can be used in the US or abroad. So students actually can use their FLAS fellowships to study abroad, but they don't have to. Whereas with the group projects abroad, the seminars abroad, and the doctoral dissertation research abroad programs, as is indicated in the names, all of those take place abroad. Okay, so we're at the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening this whole time, and I hope that the information presented has been useful to you. On that note, we actually have another webinar coming up that may be of interest to you if you are interested in applying to any of our Title VI programs. This webinar is called Tips and Tricks for New Applicants to Title VI Programs, and it'll really focus on what are the best practices that institutions can take in order to get ready for applying to a Title VI program, how to present yourself, in the best light in an application. And it'll really address things like building capacity and other things that we see, sort of themes that we see in our successful applicants. So that will take place on September 29th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. It will be streamed via YouTube Premiere, just like this webinar. So please go to our YouTube channel, which you're already on, so you should know how to find it. Go to our YouTube channel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, where we will live stream the session. And IFLE staff members will also be on call to help answer your questions live if you have them. And a final plug, please connect with us. We love hearing from our grantee community and community of international and foreign language education interested folks out there, whether you're just an individual that's interested in this subject matter or an institution. We encourage you to stay tuned, as I said, on our YouTube channel for upcoming webinars. You can follow us on Twitter at @GlobalEd, or excuse me, at @GoGlobalEd. We really encourage you to subscribe to our newsletter. The newsletter is great for receiving program updates and information about competitions that are coming up or currently taking place. But it's also a great place to just read about the great work that some of our grantees are doing. So we always have a Voices from the Field section with stories from our grantees, and a lot of people really enjoy reading those and seeing photos and hearing from the students who've been impacted. So please subscribe to that. We only send it out quarterly, the big newsletter, so it won't clog up your inbox. We're pretty sparing with it, so we send it quarterly, and then as needed in between, only when there's like a competition announcement or something like International Education Week, sort of a thematic update. So we promise we won't spam you. Please subscribe at tinyurl.com/IFLE-news. And finally, as always, you can go to our website. It's www.ed.gov/OPE/IEGPS, where you can find links to all of the program pages, which we discussed today. But you can also find information about what we do each year for International Education Week. You can find the new joint statement in support of international education that was issued by the U.S. Department of Education in collaboration with the U.S. Department of State, and a lot more information. So please visit us online. We look forward to connecting, and thank you again very much for your attention today. We look forward to hearing from you.